Okay, welcome to another GCSE Warfare Through Time short revision clip. We're going to go very fast through medieval weapons and technology today, and to see what sort of weapons there were that were new, was there any new technology around, and did these weapons affect military tactics during this period. So, we'll start with the sword. Still the main weapon used by knights during this period. At the beginning, say around about sort of in the 13th century, swords were wide and flat, basically designed for just smashing against armour. But by the time you get to the end of the medieval period, towards 1400s, 1500s, they were thinner and sharper, basically had been redesigned to penetrate the gaps in plate armour during this period. So as well as swords, you still had staff weapons being used. Pikes and spears were still common, particularly in formations such as schiltrons. Your example there would be the Battle of Falkirk, as you know, in 1298. This was still the age of the longbow, the dominant weapon during these years. There was little technological change to the longbow, but it was the way in which it was used tactically in battle which was particularly important. And you would get the repeated firing of arrows from longbows by large groups of archers, and you can see this clearly at Falkirk again, 1298, and effectively at Agincourt in 1415. There were some crossbows that launched bolts to shatter plate armour, very, very powerful, but they weren't widely used. They had a slow rate of fire. And all right, in terms of improvements during this period, there were improvements in the methods of manufacturing steel, which was leading to better armour, but these new manufacturing methods were not yet being practically applied to weaponry. During the 1400s, you get the cannon being seen more on the battlefield, often at the start of battles. This was due to improvements in the manufacture of cast iron, so it was being produced more quickly and at a reduced cost. You were starting to see another change in that metal cannonballs were now being used instead of stone, and rods next to the cannon barrel, known as trunnions, were helping to adjust height and range of fire for cannons, but they were deployed mostly in sieges. For example, the siege of Harfleur in 1415 by Henry V, just before Agincourt, and its primary use was to destroy castle walls. Still problems during this period with cannons, though. They were heavy to transport, which made them difficult to move in battle. They still had a limited range, a limited slow rate of fire, and weren't particularly accurate. So we're still waiting for big technological developments in future centuries to really turn these weapons into regularly used weapons in warfare. There were some small cannons or handguns, but weren't always safe to fire. And towards 1500, the end of this period, there are firearms weapons such as the arquebus, which are becoming more common, and this is paving the way for perhaps muskets to replace the arquebus in centuries to come. So overall, very, very quickly, gunpowder weapons remain limited. Cannons and other new firearms had not yet replaced traditional weapons, less technologically advanced weapons such as the longbow in medieval warfare. This was still the age of the longbow.